Good morning. Buenos dias from Guatemala. Super excited to meet with you guys again and do another live training. Man, life is awesome and life
crazy.
is crazy and life is often frustrating. I'm going to turn the angle here. Rachel and I, we celebrated Rachel's birthday. Yeah, it was awesome. And she and I went to Guatemala City, and of course, going to a huge foreign city always has its adventures. And we were like kind of stuck there overnight. So we got a nice hotel and celebrated some more, ate some amazing food.
You're staying in a nice hotel.
Yeah, it's a great way to be stuck. That's, there's a good life lesson there for all of us. If you're going to get stuck nicely. Make the most of it, right? Which is a great, we've all heard that, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, right? But it's true. Think about it. It's so true. When life throws bricks at you, build a mansion, man. You know what I'm saying? Like I love this idea. When life is, gives you a challenge or an adventure, turn it into an adventure race and invite some friends and have some competitions and hand out trophies. Are you guys catching this?
Well, I guess I'm going to add this right now because that is one thing I admire about you. So, I mean, we had fun, but then it was also very long and, things always take longer than anticipated in Guatemala. There's always irritations and annoyances. And then one of the things is Greg locked the keys in the truck. But what I loved is when I went out, okay, let me explain. He locked the keys in the truck.
We're borrowing a truck from a friend.
We're borrowing a truck, and the back of the truck is
beater
filled with all this stuff we've bought, like furniture, tons and tons. So it's filled. The only way to get the keys out of the truck is through the back window. You climb in and you unlock it, right? But the back window is covered with stuff because we've been shopping for a day.
And shopping.
So Greg has to unload everything out of the truck to get the keys. But I go out there. I was inside shopping, doing more shopping.
Buying more stuff.
And I mean, you were just happy and just like having a great time unloading the truck. And I'm like, I'm so grateful for my husband that he just has a good attitude about things like that. Instead of being like grumpy and upset and ornery, you were just having a good time.
Yep.
I'm grateful for that.
Awesome. Well, we're going to talk about that today. Actually, fits very well with what we're going to talk about today, which I hope you guys get excited about this. We're going to talk about, I'm going to use the word congruence, and Rachel's going to use the word coherence. Okay. We're going to talk about the same thing, but with different words here, really get dialed in. And it's super important, but basically I really want to emphasize that, you guys, what your life will be what you make of it. And maybe you've written that down before. I invite you to write it down again. Your life will be what you make of it. It's that powerful and that important. We have, I didn't realize this. When I was younger, I just thought, I played the victim, but I think we're conditioned that way because most people live that way. And so we learn to think that way. We just think in a victim mentality. Things happen to me. There's nothing I can do about it. People do things. It makes me mad. That's all I can do. Right? Oh, just the way life is, just my luck. And we play this victim mentality all the time. We say things like, oh, I lost my temper, right? We put it outside of us. He made me mad. She made me feel that way. And we just play this victim all the time. And so, and I literally remember thinking like, I'm just going to be poor. It's just my destiny. That's my lot in life. I can't do any of those cool things. That's for other lucky people. And they get to do all that cool stuff. This was my mindset. This was my mentality that things are fixed. Things are just the way they are. And there's really nothing I can do about it. You get what I'm saying? Anybody ever thought like that, or was it only me?
Well, I do want to add something because somebody brought up a good point before. And like, yeah, sometimes in life there are things that happen. And, sometimes there's tragedy. Sometimes there's bad things that happen. Somebody that had been listening to us once, they're like, well, in this specific case, their son had died. Like, legitimate things happen, right? My dad died. Your sister's husband died. But the point is that I think the ultimate example of this was Viktor Frankl, and that's why he's such a powerful example for me and a mentor, because he was put into a concentration camp and he lost his whole family. So yeah, things happen, but his ultimate conclusion in the book that he wrote, Man's Search for Meaning, if you have not read that, you should read it.
If you haven't read in the last 6 months, you should reread it.
His ultimate conclusion was, yeah, things happen to you, but ultimately you get to decide how you feel about it, what your attitude is around it, and what you do with it.
The one thing that nobody else can ever take from you is your attitude of mind, your response. That's the one thing that can never be taken from you is your response. It's amazing. So yes, terrible things can happen.
When the bad things happen, when the tragedies happen, when all those things happen, we can't say, oh, there's nothing we can do about it. Like, life just happens to us. I'll just be poor. I'll just be depressed. I'll just be all these things. Ultimately, we have that power to choose how we respond to tragedies, obstacles, situations. Okay. We have the choice. That's where our ultimate power lies, is with the choice of our response. Now, the good news is that when things aren't that bad, right? When we're not dealing with tragedy, but we're just dealing with obstacles.
Let's be honest. That's most of the time, right?
Which is
some of us are going to
time.
experience some tragedies, but most of the time, you guys,
it's not tragedy. We're just dealing with
difficulties,
challenges,
right?
And obstacles.
And sometimes, may I be honest? I love you guys. If we were together, I'd give you a big hug. But I'm gonna be honest. Many things are hard because we're soft. Many things seem tough just because we're being weak. That's just the reality of it. But we think, oh, life's so hard, all these terrible things. Like, those are actually Mickey Mouse problems, right? And again, I'm speaking from experience because I used to whine and complain and moan and oh, my life was so rough. But I realized quickly as I grew, my problems became smaller because I became bigger. So my problems are big when I'm small, but when I'm big, my problems are small. It puts them into perspective, right? Mm-hmm. It shifts that whole paradigm, which is a really cool reality. So the more I grow, the smaller my problems become. Until you face bigger problems, and then you have another opportunity to grow.
To grow again, that's what I was going to say.
Outgrow your problems.
Your problems do become smaller, but then you end up getting some bigger problems, which is a good thing because that's growth. How you keep leveling up is when you have more difficult problems to overcome. It's the problem. I just honestly love that book, The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday, because it's so true. The obstacles we face, the challenges we face are the opportunities to grow and to level up. That's how it works. We level up by overcoming bigger challenges and obstacles. And that's how we create the life that we want. Like we think that creating the life that we want eliminates problems and challenges, but it's really overcoming problems and challenges that creates the life that we want so we can continue to level up.
So here's a crazy mindset to chew on for a minute. Take this one on for size. Many of us think we want a life free from challenges or obstacles. We don't want any problems. But perhaps the reality is we actually want a challenging life because a challenging life is actually a fulfilling life. It's a gratifying life. It's a growth life. But most of us, we want our comfort and our ease and our luxuries with no problems ever. And we kind of think that. I used to think that way. I'm like, can I just have a life with no problems? But that's not much of a life, is it? a life without challenges isn't really a life. It's like you living in your comfortable little bubble, not facing the realities of the world or people. But you see what I'm saying? I used to
Well,
live there. I wanted a life with no problems. I can't. When are the problems? And I just keep thinking this, even after we got married. I was like, hey, when are we getting to the point where there's no more problems? Like, there's got to be this point where there's no
the
more
magic
challenges.
point.
And when you have little toddlers, right? And they're like, they're taking their diaper off and doing their business all over the floor. They're breaking your stuff, making messes. And you're like, once we get past this, then there won't be any challenges with parenting. Right. And it's all just this crazy delusion. We kid ourselves. A challenging life is a fulfilling life. Oh, hold on.
Pause. Hold that
Pause.
thought.
There's a challenge.
Our kids are, so we're here in Guatemala. Our kids are taking the public transportation down to Panajachel so they can go play in Lake Atitlán today. So we're just coordinating that for a minute. But here's what I wanted to add. This was an amazing discovery that I had, or insight that I received. And that was this idea that the cool thing about life, and I think the way that the universe is structured and, you know, all this metaphysical stuff, the amazing thing about it is that, get closer, baby, come closer to me. There does get a point, not where the challenges go away, but where you get to choose more of your challenges.
Ooh.
You get to choose. Now that sounds kind of crazy. You're like, well, how do I choose my challenges? Right? Because don't tragedies happen? I'm like, okay, yeah, tragedies can happen. But outside of tragedy, because again, tragedy is more rare than it is common, in normal life, you can get to the point where you choose your challenges.
Oh, okay. Now we just got to some crazy talk. Anybody know what we're talking about there? Anybody got to a point like that? Maybe, and it may be a certain aspect of your life where my daily alarm's going off, my reminders. Everybody got to that. It might be a particular area of your life where you're like, you know what? I'm so dialed in here. I'm on the path to mastery. I'm so dialed in with something. I get to pick and choose what I work on. Let's take physical. Physical is such an easy example, right? When you're way out of shape, you're eating junk food, you're overweight, you're unhealthy, you're getting sick all the time, you're tired all the time, your body aches all the time. You're just like, oh, you don't get to choose your challenges, right? You're just dealing with consequences. But then when you get in phenomenal shape,
though there is that element there, because you feel like you're not choosing the challenges because you're dealing with the consequences of your health. But if you choose the challenge of exercising consistently every day, because that is a challenge, it's not necessarily easy or fun to exercise every day.
it is for me.
I know, but for a lot of people, okay?
Right.
Not everybody's Greg Denny. If you decide to choose that challenge, that's an example right there of one way you're choosing your challenges
versus suffering the consequences. So one, you're like, I could choose to I could choose to sweat and strain and like, this really burns my muscles. It doesn't feel very well. Or I can lay in bed and like, I have no energy. My bones ache and hurt. I just feel like crap.
Just not working out and just choosing to eat junk food. Like the easier path, right? The easier path is to eat the cookies. I mean, I'll be honest, right? That's an easier path, to not work out every day and to eat stuff that tastes good, you know, that's super sweet.
That's a way harder path. Oh,
I'm trying to. Okay. Like, not everyone's great. It's awesome.
We're sharing perspectives. We're sharing perspectives, though, right?
Think back to your 16-year-old self.
All right. When I was 16,
I'm with Rachel.
See?
Hey, come on now. Somebody's got to be with me here.
No, you have to remember back when you were that person, because you were there. It's just been a long time.
Yeah.
You were there. You used to eat a gallon of mint chocolate chip ice cream
and drink a 2-liter Dr. Pepper.
Like that was your life and you loved that. Okay.
But now I realize that was harder.
But you realize that now. But I'm saying that's the point. That's what I'm trying to point out.
Yep.
we think that's the easier path. We think that that's more fulfilling and enjoyable. None of us can argue that the long-term consequences of those choices are poor health. And with poor health come certain challenges.
Greater
right?
suffering, actually.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say here is that that's one path where you think you're not choosing your challenges, but actually you are long-term, or you choose the challenge of mental or physical strain and
discipline,
eating restraint,
yep.
right? That's challenging. And but you're choosing your challenge. You choose the challenge. I'm going to challenge myself with exercise and healthy eating. And so you choose your challenge, and it's not easy, but it's an alternative option to choosing the challenges down the road of not choosing that option.
Yes.
Does that make sense? It's confusing, but
as you continue to level up, so going back, and thank you for sharing that. As you continue to level up and you're like, hey, I work out every day. I eat healthy. Like I got this. All of us will get to a place. Thoreau said it. No, it was Emerson said it best. He said that which we persist in doing becomes easier, not that the nature of the thing has changed, but that our ability to do has increased.
Yes.
So whatever we persist in doing becomes easier. So then
at some point that does become easy.
Easy. So you're
better.
Like, I work out every day. It feels fantastic. I eat healthy. It's great. Then you start choosing challenges like, I wonder if I should do a marathon or maybe even a triathlon. I wonder if I should do a mud race, or I wonder if I should pick a mountain. Or I wonder if I should cycle 100 miles or maybe ride my bike literally across my country, right? You start choosing things like that and you're like, boom, you get to choose those challenges. And cool stuff. Here, I want to hear some of the comments. There's some fun comments coming in.
Well, I just want to add 1 second. Yes, that's actually the next level of choosing your challenges, is once certain things then become easier and simpler for you, right? Working out is now easy. Now the next level is you can still choose your challenges. Mommy. And this is super important that we need to get into. Hold
on just a second.
All our older kids just left to go play in the lake. So now I got to help my little girl that just woke up.
Oh, so that ends right there? Your thought ends right there?
No.
Okay.
We'll talk about it.
Okay, remember it. Come back. So I'm going to carry on though. And I want to hit, there's some cool stuff. So here, there are a bunch of great comments coming in. I'm going to hit all these comments, you guys. Now it says, it's a hard truth, but still a truth, right? I love that a hard life is a fulfilling life and to enjoy the hard. But what about when we're surrounded by kind of normal thinking people, right? That say stuff like I was saying, right? One day life will be better, because again, I think it's almost default thinking, you guys, that we operate inside some form of victim mentality. It's kind of the default thinking. So unless we're really cognizant and really aware and intentional and conscious, we just think in a default thinking like, one day life will be better. One day life will be better. Well, it'll be better today when we make it better. And that was a huge switch for me. I had to go through that switch. And so did Rachel. And we've done it together again and again. You go through the switch. We're like, wait a minute. No, life will be better when I make it better. In fact, here's the realization I had personally. My life gets better when I get better. It was amazing when it just dawned on me. It's such a simple truth, but it's so powerful. Like, wait a minute. When I become a better person, I'm more on top, more capable, more competent, like all of that stuff, then my life automatically gets better and my whole life gets better. And so if you're surrounded by normal people thinking, and guess what, guys? You will be for your whole life.
It's out there.
What I was telling my daughter recently, and this is what I teach like in my master class, my Be the Men master class, I really focus on 2 levels of thinking. Thinking like the masses. And sometimes with that, the M is silent. And so thinking like the masses or thinking like the masters, it's very different. The masters are rare. The masses, of course, are masses. They're common. So our entire lives, we're going to be surrounded by people who think like the masses. And they're going to think you're crazy for thinking like the masters. And you're going to think you're crazy sometimes. because you're like, everybody else thinks like this, but then you'll read a book and you'll meet someone and they're like, what? Like they live on another planet. They're talking about choosing their challenges. That they actually talk about loving and embracing challenge. Who does that? I don't even know anybody who talks about enjoying challenges. We all sit around and throw pity parties and oh, woe is me, and we invite all our friends. Life is so hard, blah blah blah, right? And we throw these great big pity parties, and it doesn't help anybody. It doesn't solve any problems. And every once in a while, you meet someone like, "Ooh, I love challenge. Oh, bring it on. That's amazing." And you're like, that person must be on drugs.
Well, and
but they
this
live
idea,
differently.
And this idea, which there's a comment in here about, we chose our challenge to move to Europe instead of growing bored in life and arguing with each other. Those types of ideas. People will sometimes think like, why? Well, they often think that's crazy. Why would you do that? Why would you choose to do that? And the reason they think that's crazy is because from their perspective, they're like, that looks hard. Why would you do something like that that's so hard? It's going to be hard to move to Europe and deal with another language and deal with another culture. That's hard. Why would you do that? But that is the point right there. You're choosing your challenges. That's another reason why we travel, because traveling, despite the Instagram photos, is not
it's tough,
rainbows
man.
and unicorns. Okay. It is challenging. And that's why we choose to do it, because it is challenging. It's because of the challenge that we choose to do it. That comment's spot on there. Like, you choose something challenging because it's hard, but also because it brings more rewards. But it's the type of challenge, choosing your challenge thing that we're talking about. You can choose, because that's the other irony of life that I realized long ago when we started traveling. Either way, you're going to have challenges.
But we kid ourselves of like, if I stay here and I'm in control of everything, I won't have any trials. Bah.
And it's almost, well, I've started to think this way, and I might be off, but it's almost like the universe, not that it conspires against you, but it's like, you know what? If you're going to choose to avoid challenge and you're going to seek comfort, we're going to throw in a little bit of challenge.
Yeah, they have to introduce some things so you have some.
There has to be some
stimuli to grow.
Yeah, because you have to be. Someone else made a comment earlier. Discomfort brings growth. Yeah. Being uncomfortable brings growth. So we can choose to make ourselves uncomfortable by even small things, exercising, right? Eating healthy. Like all the small daily things.
Difficult conversations.
Yeah, having difficult conversations. All of those small things, we can choose that on a daily basis. We can choose the discomfort of that. Or we can choose to be comfortable and have discomfort thrown upon us. And I honestly think
all in favor.
It's some sort of law of the universe that it works that way.
I agree. In fact, I heard a really, really successful teacher and leader. I mean, he's one of the best in the world. And he said that. He said, look, he says, in my experience, I've observed, if we go through life seeking comfort, trying to avoid all challenges and discomfort, he says, he said it this way. He says, I feel like, and this guy is a secular, huge platform, and not even a religious person. He said, I feel like God will intervene and give us trials just again, these are my words, as a stimulus to keep us going and growing. I love that idea. Man, there's so much great stuff coming in here.
Is this the one you're trying to do, or is?
Oh, that's
this great. Is also a good one by C.S. Lewis, who was an atheist before he converted to Christianity. If you look for truth, you may find comfort in the end. But if you look for comfort, okay, here's what we're talking about. If you look for comfort, you will not get either comfort or truth. And
only
in the end,
soft soap and wishful thinking.
And in the end, despair. Okay, if you look for comfort, the end result of seeking comfort is despair and suffering. That's the irony of life. It's only when we choose challenge and we embrace challenge as a tool for growth that we end up finding what we're actually looking for. which is meaning and purpose and fulfillment and joy and happiness and peace. That's the irony. It's so crazy. We think that it's going to come around by seeking it, but it comes around by seeking to grow and to be challenged.
Love this.
Okay.
Oh, I love
Wow,
it.
that was a good
Well,
little
and
introduction here.
like Stephanie says here, I love this. Better to choose your challenges than to have the trials
Yes.
choose you. Well
Amen.
said.
Yes.
Mary says, I've been feeling this. Most of us are living in fear.
Mhm.
We parent and we navigate relationships in fear.
Yes.
It's rare to witness the other well, these are my words. You're right, spot on. But to be proactive and to face our challenges. How many of us are just going through life avoiding
right.
the
We live in
difficulties?
this
Like
fear, and we're trying to avoid the hard, scary, difficult things. And that's how we navigate life.
So almost all of our actions are actually reactions to fear or avoidance. You're like, how many of you have, the gorilla in the room, the elephant in the room? It's this big problem that nobody's been addressing, nobody's been taking care of, right? And you're like, well, let's just pretend that that's not there.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. It's kind of a crazy morning around here.
Keep going. There's more great.
He's got a phone call coming in that we need to not ignore. Okay, so I'm going to read some more great comments here. Whoa. Let's see. Okay. We are about to challenge us by moving to Italy. Me, my husband, and my 3 kids. Fantastic. That is awesome. Now living in the Dominican Republic. That's awesome. Dominican Republic is awesome. Italy is awesome. Travel creates challenges for my kids to overcome instead of them creating challenges in our family. Yes.
Oh, that's a good one. What?
Yes. That is so true.
Let me read that again. Travel creates challenges for my kids to overcome instead of them creating challenges in our family.
Yes.
Holy guacamole.
Yes.
That was so well articulated, and that's been our experience as well. In fact, I'll do that physically. We'll take our kids, our whole family, we'll do really, really hard physical things, really challenging things. You guys, it solves so many of the other problems.
Well, because it's taking, there's all this energy.
Yeah.
I mean, kids have energy. We know that.
Chaotic energy.
And it's directing it into a specific channel, right? It's taking what they have, and instead of it producing more chaos, it's giving them a focus for channeling that energy. So yes, I love that.
Did you read this comment from Yaya? So Yaya wrote, I was just thinking of what Rachel said. It's one thing to place challenges ahead of yourself or dealing with stuff that is thrown at you out of left field.
Yes.
So true.
And
love these concepts.
The longer I think about this idea and analyze this idea, because I try to find where it could be wrong. Like, where is this idea off? Where would this idea not work? But the more I think about it, the more I see that I think it's true that when we choose to challenge ourselves, when we choose to do hard things, when we choose to push ourselves, I think there's less stuff, or at least less often is stuff thrown at you from left field.
I agree. That's been our experience. And you guys, we've been through a lot.
We've been through a lot of stuff.
We've been through a lot of stuff, crazy stuff.
We challenge ourselves, but I think that when we are actively challenging ourselves, you're less likely to experience the left field stuff, right?
The fires and the trials.
And sometimes I would say tragedies and things like that. Now that's
it sounds crazy, but
metaphysical there, I think.
Just chew on that for a little bit. I want to read this one. Somebody said, it's a little decision that if committed to could change your life.
Yeah.
And I
that applies with exercise.
Totally agree.
That applies with a simple thing like reading every day, or, getting up early, or there's just a lot of little decisions like that we can choose every day that are challenging. Okay. Because it is challenging to get up early. It is challenging to commit to doing something every single day, even if it's practicing an instrument or, whatever it is. Pick your thing. that is challenging. And yet that helps us to experience the growth.
So there's 2 comments, right, that I want to address or hit. Somebody said here, yes, challenges are my playground because I know it means I'm about to level up, right? I love that attitude. Like see it coming, like, ooh, I'm going to get stronger, which actually answers a question. That was another one. They said, would you say that if you regularly challenge yourself by choice, when the unexpected happens, you're less frazzled?
It's like a built up muscle.
Like
yes.
100%, hands down.
10%,
110%,
200%.
Because what happens is you grow, as you get bigger, your problems get smaller, and you grow in capacity.
It's just like building weights. It's exactly like that. If you choose to every day lift weights, well, you start with
and somebody throws something at you, you catch it.
If you start with me, I start with my 10 pounds or whatever, and then you work up. Greg just bought a new weight set this weekend. Or this week.
Yeah, sweet.
50 pounds. And well, he brought it home, and my how old's Kimball? 15-year-old son. He says to me, "Oh, I'm so glad Dad bought this because our 30-pound weights aren't enough for me."
Aren't enough.
The 30-pound weights aren't enough for him. So now he's glad we've got some 50-pounders. But because you have this built up muscle, when something comes that's heavy that you have to deal with, you have the muscles to deal with it. So it's exactly like that. When you choose on a daily basis to challenge yourself by choice, when the unexpected does come, it frazzles you less because you have the muscle to deal with it.
You've got experience, you have capacity, you have ability, like you've literally expanded yourself. So you're like, oh, I got this.
Mm-hmm.
You with me? Like, let that sink in. You want to purposely lean into these kind of things and say, how can I become more coordinated, more cultivated, more like you're ready, you're on your toes, you're ready. And so somebody throws something and you're like, bam, I got it. Where before it would have hit you upside the head and you're like, oh, yeah, terrible. Now you just reach up and catch it. And people look at you and wonder and awe and be like, oh,
how do you do that?
You're so lucky.
You're like, I've been practicing.
Like, well, I've been working on this. Right? It's a real thing. It's so cool. I love this. More alarms, more good stuff going on. Here's a great comment. In deciding to stay in Thailand, we had to step up into the unknown. We've done that a lot. In fact, I want to talk about that. Mm-hmm. Not knowing where our income would come from anymore. But as soon as we stepped into the challenge, all the opportunities came.
Yes.
I want to emphasize that because we have found that to be true with almost every aspect of life. If you really want something, you guys, and it seems scary or unknown or beyond your current capacities, great. Lean into it. We have found again and again that so many opportunities, so many things appear, so many doors open.
Once you step into the darkness.
Exactly.
That's
and so you're like, I'm going to embrace this challenge. I'm going to take a step forward. I can't see it. You step forward and you're like, oh, now I can see that. Yes. And you can see the next step. And sometimes you start seeing doors and opportunities you didn't see before, but it doesn't come until we consciously decide, I'm going to lean into this. Mm-hmm. I'm going to choose this challenge. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to get serious. And can I pause for a minute to say, there is a rant coming.
Can I pause to say there's a rant coming?
Not right now. In a pod, because I wrote it the other night.
Okay.
This is I think why I locked the keys in the truck the other day. I stayed up late because my mind was so active, and I woke up really early because my mind was so active. So I got very little sleep. But I got up early, and all I had was my phone, and so I wrote this gigantic post. I'm gonna post it. I think I'm gonna do a podcast about it. Ultimately, I think one of our greatest problems is that we don't value ourselves enough. I'm gonna say that bluntly. I don't think you value yourself enough. And I say that with love, but I also say it bluntly because if we value ourselves more, if you value yourself more, you're going to take yourself more seriously, and you're going to lean into the things that you want, and you're going to lean all the way in. You're going to stop and say, you know what? Enough is enough. I will not tolerate this pathetic little financial situation anymore. Done. and you lean in and you fix it and you find solutions. You draw the line and say, you know what? My health, my body matters to me more than this. I'm done. I'm not doing a 6-week diet. I'm done. I'm doing a lifetime change where I'm eating delicious and nutritious food for the rest of my life. It's where you draw the line and say, I'm done living behind my fears. I'm done living behind social expectations, worried about what other people think. I'm going to live an extraordinary life. Join me or get out of the way. Right? But you
Well-
have to value yourself more in order to take action like that.
Well, I think that, I mean, you're absolutely correct here. And I think the reality is that we often don't believe in our own capacity to deal with challenges. We don't recognize the power we have within ourselves to deal with a lot more than we deal with. And the reason why we feel that way is because I think, yeah, we feel overwhelmed with the challenges of life, but that's because we're trying to pull back from them instead of lean
Yes.
into them.
We're trying to underwhelm ourselves.
We're trying to say, I wish I had less of this. I wish I had less stress. I wish I had less challenges, instead of saying, great, I've got all this challenges and all this stress. I am going to lean into this and I'm going to
Bring it.
master it. When
Do you-
you lean into it, that's when you have your power. When you try to pull back from it to avoid it, or you're afraid of it, or to get away from it, that's when the anxiety comes. That's when the stress comes. That's when you feel like you can't handle it.
And you get so off balance. You see what she's doing with her body here? It's posture. When you lean into it, you're ready and you're balanced and you're on it. Try to, like we do martial arts, right? Try to do martial arts on your heels. You're going to get your butt kicked, but do it on your toes and you're ready. It's literally that. It's toe to heel. And that's what Rachel's saying there. It's just a posture. It's a posture thing that comes from your mindset. Like, well, I'm going to lean into this a little bit and watch what starts to happen.
Because when you lean in, you're in this posture of like, I can handle this. I can do this. It might be hard. Maybe I'll cry, but I can handle it. I'll figure it out. I'll figure out a way. I've been amazed at my own self, what I've been able to do, what I've been able to handle, what I've been able to work through. Not sometimes with tears, sometimes saying, why did I choose this? Or why am I going through this? But I figure out how to do it, and I figure out how to rise above it, because I say, well, I guess if I have this challenge, or I chose to take this challenge on, and it's even more challenging than I thought it would be, you know what? I know that it's what I was supposed to do, and I can figure this out.
Another great comment here from Stephanie. And we have to nourish that commitment and motivation and aim. It's just like feeding your body. You have to feed those things. You have to continually feed your commitment. Sometimes you think, boom, it'll just happen. Or I did it once.
Motivation is just automatic. Motivation is not automatic.
I had a life-changing experience. Now I'm done.
Nourish it. Motivation has to be nourished on a daily basis.
Yep. So does aim. So does commitment. I love that. So keep nourishing it, especially when you feel like you're fine. Man, that's where you're so right. That's the danger part. You're like, oh, I got this. And we let our habits, our routines, our rituals slip. And all of a sudden we find ourselves in a slump, and you don't realize what's happening. And so you're cognitively, you're dropping and dropping, but you don't realize it. And so down here, you're like, oh, I feel terrible. And you need a coach or somebody to say, hey, wake up. Like you dropped here the last few weeks.
You're not nourishing your commitment
and you
motivation.
almost have this awakening, and you're like, oh yeah,
oops,
what's going on here? I got to get back in the game. So every opportunity to nourish the strength of your efforts is leaning in. It's an investment in success.
Yes.
Great comment. I love that. Okay, so here's a question I want to ask, and I want you to throw this in the chat, or you can even jump on mic.
Did you ask?
Yeah, I'm going to do that right now.
Okay.
So, but I want all of you to be thinking, what challenges do you need to take on? Some of you will know right away. You're like, that one I've been avoiding, or the one that's been playing in the back of my mind.
That's always a good one to pick, is the one you've been avoiding.
Which one do you need to lean into? I want you to think about it right now. Write it down. Write down a commitment to yourself. Tell your spouse, tell your kids, like lean in, tell us. You can jump on mic here and share, or you can share in the chat. What do you need to lean into? And I'm going to answer a question here that came in. Like if you're new to travel, where would you choose to go first? I need a challenge, but leaving the house is challenging, right? And for everyone, it's different. It depends on where you're at. If leaving the house for the first time is challenging, you might just want to travel in your department or state, or in a neighboring state, or something where it's somewhat familiar, but you can start having new experiences. You can choose countries like Mexico and Costa Rica and Spain, well, most of Europe, Australia, if they'll let you in. I think New Zealand's still closed. When places start opening up, right? You choose Thailand is a great. You just kind of choose something that.
Well, yeah. Now you choose based on what's.
Yeah, now you choose what you
to
take the
travel.
countries that are open, and then you take the ones that like, oh, I think we can do that, and you start there. Like, for example, India is amazing, but holy intenseness.
Very
like
challenging.
even for a seasoned traveler, India's wow, right? It's wow. Wow. It's intense, right? But whatever, some of you be like, I'm starting with India, right? Whatever. So you just kind of pick your thing, but just go off the experience you want to have. And so actually the answer we give all the time with where to go travel is also what challenge to choose would be this. What experience do you want to have? What growth do you want to gain? At the end of it, what do you want to have transformed in you?
Mhm.
That's how you know which challenge to pick, and actually what country to go visit or go, place to go experience.
Our very first time traveling, one of the things that helped us choose was the fact that he already knew Spanish, and we wanted me to learn and improve my Spanish, and we wanted our kids to learn Spanish. So we picked a Spanish speaking country. So that's just one example of how that goes about, is that we wanted to learn Spanish, so we picked a Spanish speaking country. So it was based on that experience and that challenge of learning a language that helped us decide where to go. So yeah, that goes for choosing challenges, that goes for traveling. What is the experience you want to have? What is the challenge you want to overcome? And that helps you.
And we're waiting for some of those to come into the chat box. I want to see these. And I'm dead serious. Like this morning, I want you to, here's what's happened. We'll think about it. We'll even have a conversation about, like, yeah, I should choose something like that. But then we don't actually do anything about it. We don't write it down, and we don't commit to it and lean in.
And this is a little tidbit I'm going to throw in here, right? We don't set up the habit system for making that challenge a part of our life, because ultimately everything comes down to habit. No matter what your goals, dreams, wishes are, if you don't turn them into a habit, you don't actually achieve them.
Yep.
Now that comes from one of my favorite books about that, obviously, is Atomic Habits by James Clear. So that's a whole nother topic. We could do a whole training. Well, we have
we
done
will.
trainings
We
on that.
have, and we will.
Yeah.
Because
just keep that in mind, that ultimately you have to make it into a habit, a daily habit.
So as you're thinking about your challenge, how could you create a habit system around the challenge so now it becomes a part of your life? And somebody said here in the comments, you got to set up boundaries. So if it's not working for you, then you drop it, right? So you got to have your boundaries. You got to have your expectations. You got to be clear about what you want, because you might start down something and be like, this isn't really what I want. Or you might start down something and say, this is really uncomfortable. It's really unpleasant. It's really inconvenient. It's so hard. And you got to have the clarity to say, but I still want the result. And so I'm going to persist. Too many people give up too soon. On the other side of that coin, people don't give up when they should. They're like, don't go down that path. But I started, so I had to finish it. I'm like, well, is that really what you want in your life? Well, no. Well, then stop. Choose a different challenge. It's okay. Choose a different challenge. But don't do it just because it's hard. Do it because you're clear about who you are and how you want to do life.
And what you want to achieve. Yeah, exactly. Now, so there's another thing too, that there's a comment here that kind of, I think, relates to this idea of sometimes there are legitimate boundaries and obstacles that are going to form the challenges you take on, what you can do with your life, things like that. As an example, a lot of you know that our dream is to live in France, right? We want to have a chateau in France. Well, because of COVID, France is not currently allowing tourists to come in. So we can't go to France because we'd have to go as tourists at this point, and we can't do that. So when we were thinking about what do we do next with our life, that was a legitimate obstacle. We can't go to France right now. But that doesn't mean that we still don't have power to choose something else that we do want to do with our life that can even help us move forward to that goal. That's one of the reasons that we're here. We're in Guatemala right now, and we're in this, we bought this house like 7 years ago, and it's been, it's been used for a nonprofit organization. But that's one of the reasons that we chose to come down here and fix it up, is because going to France was not an option at this point. So it's guided our choices, obviously. So there are legitimate obstacles and limits that can guide your choices, or at least create boundaries around them. But that doesn't mean that you still can't move forward on your long-term goals within those boundaries, if that makes sense. So yeah, sometimes there are things, we can't do this, we can't go here, we can't do that. But that doesn't mean there aren't other options. And that's one of the things right now, I think, that a lot of people are dealing with, is they think, oh, because of COVID, I can't travel.
That's not true.
That's not true. You just can't travel to certain places.
And even with other certain places, there's a few restrictions, but you can still get in. There's tons of people traveling, more and more traveling. We're out traveling, you guys. We've been out of the country since the beginning of the year, and having extraordinary experiences. So and we didn't have to get the vaccine. Right. And some places don't even require a COVID test.
Mexico requires no COVID test.
Costa Rica doesn't either.
Costa Rica.
So
Guatemala did, but okay.
Yeah.
The US requires it to get back.
Right. So don't. And again, I'll just throw this little side note out.
Choose your challenge.
There's
even
a lot of
COVID
hype.
test.
There's a lot of hype out there, and a lot of drama about, oh, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. It's like, learn to quiet that noise and say, what's actually happening? What's real? And then there's people stop chasing dreams and challenges because of all the hype and all the talk. Again, thinking like the masses. So they just stop, instead of, wait a minute, the masters don't listen to the masses. They just go find what's real and they make it happen. And you're like, oh my goodness, there's people out doing this and this and this. Well, I just heard from everybody, you can't do that. It's just not true. It's not the case. So lean into it. Okay, here's one from Mary. Mary said, we have 2 big challenges I need to lean into right now. Growing my business, which equals learning to market to get new clients. Yeah. Yes. And marketing. Yes. Marketing is a skill, and it's a mindset, and it's like facing fears, right? Because you're putting yourself out there. You have to learn how to articulate yourself well. Fantastic. That's a huge one. So just, again, embrace that, become a marketing master. And then 2, exercising and eating better because I need to get my health under control. Fantastic. And I'm going to throw something weird out there. You ready for this? Those 2 things go together. As you get better at one, you'll get better at the other.
Yeah.
I promise. We start leveling up, what happens is it just starts, it's the tide. We always talk about the tide. Be the tide that brings up your whole family, right? But you are the tide in your own life, and you start raising the tide, it starts lifting all your other little boats, all the boats of your life, right?
Well, I think, was it in the last week formula coaching that we talked about the 5 things, and they're all interconnected. It's holistic. So you can't improve one of these areas of life without it automatically impacting and influencing the other areas. So yeah, it's all directly connected.
Boom. So another one here. Nathan says, I'm leaning into creating the projects that I've envisioned, particularly a software project that's bigger than anything I've ever written. Woohoo! Right? In fact, can I kind of share that principle with all of us? You guys, when you're ready, when the timing's right, or maybe it's never right. So scratch that comment. Just take on something that's bigger than you've ever done before. That's the nature of growth. You have to do something you've never done before, something bigger than what you're used to. That's how growth comes. That's awesome. And then writing a novel, right, with a specific field to figure out how to write the way I need to.
Yeah.
And my question to you, brother, do you have tangible results? How many words did you write last week? How much code did you write last week? I'm going to throw this out for everybody. Every Friday, I use Friday as a barometer. Every Friday, just stop and say, did I make progress? If I want to write a novel, every Friday I stop and say, how many pages did I write this week?
Well, and even if it's not specifically on the novel, if you want to be a writer,
Just
then you
write.
need to at least have written that week.
Yeah.
Right?
Did I write
You at
how many
least
days?
Wrote.
How many
Even
hours?
if you throw it all away, if you wrote, that's the point. You
Yep.
did writing that week.
You've got to create movement. You got to turn on the faucet, so to speak. So all of you, like, let's go back. Like, okay, if you got to exercise and eat better, just stop right now. It's Wednesday. How have I done this week in exercising, eating better, and make commitments to yourself? We're 4 days, counting Sundays, the first day, we're 4 days into this week. How many days have you exercised? And this is for everybody. How many days have you eaten well? Take an accounting, like take yourself seriously, value
Thursday
yourself.
in Australia.
Yeah, Thursday, baby, you're 5 days in, right? You're right. Thank you for reminding us that this is a global audience. Like, how many days have you done it? Like, stop right now and do accountability. Like, how much junk food did I put in my body this week?
And one of our favorite ways to do this is, we've done it with the 28-day challenges before, is the habit trackers. When there's something you want to do, when you track it, there's power right there. Tracking those habits.
It seems so elementary.
Eating well, practicing an instrument, reading, whatever it is that you want to do, write it down and track it every day and check it off when you do it. It seems simple, but there's power there.
So much power. Love that. Here's another one. Emily says, my big challenge is living in the moment. Mm-hmm. I'm a dreamer and I dream fast and big. Yeah, so are we. Which I love about myself, but I can feel myself missing moments in the present. That was something, I don't know about you, that's something I really had to work on because I'm a big visionary dreamer. And so I realized that years ago, I'm like, okay, I have to be really good at both. I have to be good. I have to become good at being present and just chillaxing and enjoying what's now. And I have to still keep dreaming and driving, right? I'm going to focus on weekly walking dates with my kids one at a time. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that idea. Mm-hmm. Weekly date nights and putting my phone away after dinner. All three of those are excellent.
Those are simple ideas right there. That yes, I need to be present in the moment more. And so what I'm going to do is when I'm with the people, I'm going to be present. And I think that when you can, for me, I guess I call it what's the word? Whatever. You're chunking it into compartmentalizing.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I like to do. I like to do that. And so when I'm in family time, I make sure I'm all in family time. And when I'm in work time, I make sure I'm all in work time. And when I'm in morning routine time, like I'm all in that time. And so simple thing like that, a date night. Okay. It's date night time. I'm
be there. Wherever you are,
dinner time. I put away my phone. We're in dinner time. And that's a simple thing that you can still be the big dreamer. You can still, have those big dreams and visions, but you just make sure that you do it other times, right? Okay.
It's super cool. So some of you, your challenge is going to be to put boundaries on your stuff, on yourself. And
boundaries are a good thing. We think sometimes boundaries are bad, but boundaries actually provide this format for focus. When we have boundaries on something, it helps us be able to focus more because we can then say, okay, these are the boundaries, like dinner time. The boundaries are this. It's dinner time, no phones. Now we get to focus on what's actually happening. So boundaries are good. Do you want to go here or here first?
Well, the comments keep coming. Is amazing. Good. Somebody recommended, they said this, one of the best books I've ever read is The 12-Week Year.
Yes,
something that the two of us recommended, and it really resonated and hit how to think. Awesome. Love that. Another one, Mary said, I choose to have hard conversations. Ooh. Can I just take that one and share it with all of you? Choose to have the hard conversations. I used to avoid those like the plague. In fact, I was so timid and so shy and insecure. It was hard for me to have a conversation, let alone hard conversation. Like leaning into like talking about something difficult Oh, talk about like a PTSD like symptom, right? It was terrifying. Like that's really a problem when you talk about it. I'm like, I can't talk about it. I can't bring it up. They bring it up. I'm like, oh crap. And we gotta practice doing that until you can sit there just detached, smiling, just good feelings, and say, look, we gotta solve this. Let's talk through it. Right. And a lot of it is learning emotional mastery. Those become so hard because we get so emotional, and the emotional intensity makes it so difficult. But if we can keep emotional mastery in perspective, that's a great one.
Mhm.
Awesome report there, Nathan. Thanks for sharing that, brother.
Wait, I didn't finish
Oh,
here.
yeah. I choose to eat whole foods using the habit tracker.
Yes.
Yes. I choose to read a book, not on my phone.
Oh, nice.
Every
Not on my
day.
phone. I
Read
like
from
that.
a book, not on the phone, every day. I love that. That
Mhm.
is a simple, powerful practice as a game changer. Love that, you guys. Next, my 2 older children are starting businesses, and we wanted to teach them to dream big and use their imaginations to go for it. We decided to take them to Disney World next week to see ways dreams can become reality. Fantastic. My
that's
husband says
cool.
this is ultimate test in his patience skills.
Right.
Oh man, it would be for me too. Woo! 70, I'm leaning into increasing health habits and financial goals. Love it. Now get specifics. All of you, everybody who's listening and watching the recording later, get really specific about your challenge. Because one area that I've failed a lot is like, okay, I'm going to be better. That's my challenge. I'm going to be better. Well, there's no way to measure better, right? I had to say, okay, what better at what? And like it was health. Okay, I'm going to get up to 100 push-ups, right? There's something that's tangible. I can get my hands on that, and I can measure where I'm at in my progress, right? I'm going to write so many words a day.
500 words.
We spend,
Or it like financial, like you could start with something simple like I'm going to track my spending every
Yep.
day, or I'm going to
generate an extra $500 or $5,000 a month, like wherever you're at, right? Bam. Get real clear about it and make it measurable, and then lean into that and make it a part of your new identity. Okay, here's a great one in the comments. We've done big things, overcome big challenges, and yet I feel anxious. Anxiety pops up with the silliest things like getting on a call with a client or launching a new program. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny how our mind just plays these games with us and torments us?
I don't think that's like, I think that's normal. That's sometimes a part of life. We have our different things. If I think right now, if Greg had to go up on stage and dance in front of people, he'd feel a little bit, I don't know if you would use the word anxious, but you would be.
I would do it.
You would do it, but
and people would laugh.
Dancing's not your thing.
Well, two things would happen if I were dancing on stage. Some people would laugh, and others would be overcome with jealousy at my sweet dancing skills.
I guess
she would be the laugher.
I don't know. No, I guess what I'm saying is that we still all have things that make us uncomfortable, that make us anxious. Now I think it's tough with anxious and anxiety because I think a lot of people use that today, and they take it on almost as an identity. Like, I have anxiety, where anxiety is something that happens to all of us. Like, it's a natural biological function that helps us protect ourselves. I mean, that's where it came from. Anciently, it was helping us protect ourselves from danger. The key about dealing with anxiety is, when it occurs, to analyze and process it. What is going on right now? Why am I feeling this way? And then to figure out, okay, well, how do I deal with that? What's the best solution at this point? And very often it's just, something like that. I'm feeling anxious about making a phone call or something. It's like, okay, we'll just make the phone call. That's the way to deal with that anxiety, is to just lean into it and do it, and realize that the fear of it is worse than actually doing it.
Yeah. So with things like that, especially, it's just like, you just tell yourself, like, okay, I'm picking up the phone, I'm calling now. Boom, go. Just do it. Face it like that. And then you start getting used to it. And you're like, oh, it's no big deal. I can do this all day long. Another comment here said, I need to challenge myself to pick up friendships that we started before COVID isolated us. Love that. Okay, fledgling homeschooler. It's our first challenge.
Homeschooling is a challenge.
Welcome. That's challenging. Actually, that's a challenge that doesn't go away. Just FYI, in case you were hoping that someday, if I homeschool long enough, the challenge will go away. It doesn't. I want to travel with them.
Because I think you get more comfortable and confident
and
in
competent.
homeschooling and competent. But the challenge with homeschooling and the benefit with homeschooling is that your children are always changing and growing. And so you're always needing to adjust to those changes and growth, which is a good thing with homeschooling because you can make the necessary accommodations to help them grow and develop, which they sometimes get lost in the system, right? When they're in public school. But yeah, that is also a challenge because you've got to stay on your game to be like, okay, well,
the funniest thing is once you feel like, oh, we got this kid dialed in, and the next year they're like,
in general,
boom, like, what? We thought we had you figured out, kid. Like this was working.
Yeah.
And then they change, and you change,
which is good.
Okay, want to travel? Definitely concerned with crazy COVID restriction requirements.
So
there's workable ways. Don't worry about it.
The thing is, with COVID, you just have to do more research. That's probably the biggest headache that there is out there with traveling with COVID. It's just that you have to do more research
and time your tests. Get some tests.
Time your tests.
And
but honestly, though, I don't think it's that bad. If you can deal with the restrictions of COVID at home, it's just the same as dealing with the restrictions of COVID while traveling.
Depending on the country, I guess.
Depending on the country. Obviously, some countries
and your state.
Closed.
Some of your states are tighter than
some countries.
Some countries, man. Some of you live in states that are like crazy restricted.
And in some cases, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's as bad as everybody thinks it is. This was really funny. We were in Ecuador in February, and we went on this hike, and we met this guy from England, and he was telling us, first of all, Greg was like, well, how'd you get out of England, right? Because we all assumed they're locked in and they can't leave and whatever. And he's like, yeah, I thought I was going to have to like prove all this stuff for business travel. And I made up this whole plan that I'm going to Ecuador to invest. And I had this whole thing.
Like stacks and stacks of paperwork
and all of this. And he's like, and I got to the airport and nobody asked me. I was so disappointed. They just let me get on the plane without anything.
Without a single question.
So, and same thing. We had the same thing. We crossed the border, right? The Mexico-US border. It says on the government website that the border's closed, which is not true. It's only going into the US. People can't get into the US. Well, if you're American, you can, but if they're not letting other people in. Supposedly this was, before Biden was in office, but whatever. So we had all this stuff. We're like, okay, we're going for health, dental reasons. Like we had all these stories prepared of why we're traveling.
And they were reasons. We're going to lie, but
yeah, they were reasons, but
nobody asked the thing.
Nobody asked anything.
They're like, bienvenidos.
Welcome to Mexico. Come in, right?
Like, woohoo.
So in most cases, I mean, countries want you to travel there because they benefit from tourism. And so as long as you get, like if they require a COVID test, you get the COVID test and whatever else. I mean, that's usually about it. It's not as complicated as we think it is. You just have to do more research.
Let's catch up. We're going to catch up here on more comments. I want to remind myself and show my kids a giant world outside of a small American box. Yes. Love it, you guys. Love it, love it, love it. Look at all these things, fun things here. Just trying to catch up. Okay. It's not the travel that's the problem. It's getting home. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Oh, Canada has
right.
ridiculous returning restrictions. Okay, that can be tough. Don't go back then.
Yeah.
That's our current philosophy. I've always said to be the thermostat, to set the temperature in your life. If you're the furnace, others can control you. Yeah. So the way I say that is don't be the thermometer that just goes up and down with everything that's happening around you. Be the thermostat. You set the temperature for your life. Great stuff there. Look at all these fun things, man. Okay, just trying to catch up here. Whoa, there's too much, babe, too much. Okay, let's see. Part of the reason why I solidified my choice to homeschool is because I'm refusing to deal with all the media hype of all the things. So true, you guys, so true. Okay, so we'll wrap up. Thanks for being here with us. We love that you are cognizant, you care, that Like you're aware, right? You're here because you're like, let's do things differently. To stop thinking like the masses and think more and more like the masters. And
we did not get into
we're gonna have to do that next time.
coherence and what's your word again?
Congruence.
Congruence.
We're gonna hit on that because
I'm gonna add that as a topic for next time.
But it was
Coherence and
perfect
congruence.
today to talk about this. You guys love this.
Yael needs to go to sleep because she's in Australia.
Sleep challenge. I love this. Lean into challenge, embrace it, choose your challenges, and watch how your life begins to change when you switch your mindset. You know, we embrace challenge. Like we've told you guys, one of our family kind of mottos is DDHT, Dennings do hard things. And so it's just, we have a mindset. Our kids are like, yeah, we do hard things. But that's how we roll. And we like it. We enjoy it. We look forward to it. We anticipate it. When we're in it, we try to stay positive and happy. I love this now. I'll do it. My kids are doing it. They're smiling and talking and trying to greet people while they're suffering through like physical strain and pain and discomfort. We've taught them this strategically. Now they've embraced it. I'm going to have a great attitude and a positive attitude. I'm going to be so outgoing and friendly. People won't even know how bad I'm hurting. I love that, right? You can embrace it. Challenge yourself. Great comment here. Challenge yourself to run with what is in your focus.
What we call this your circle of influence. Like what is actually in your power to improve, and what is the thing that will make the biggest difference and impact in your life if you improve that thing, instead of trying to do like you can over time you can improve everything you want to improve, but you can't improve everything you want to improve right now. You have to pick something and go with it like that.
All right. You guys are amazing. Love you. Get after it. Pick a challenge today. Share your challenge with others. Share it with us. If you need help, reach out. You guys, we have tons of resources, trainings, courses, group coaching,
on every topic,
personal coaching, Be the Man Masterclass, all of it, you guys. So lean in, have a fantastic day and week. Love you guys. Reach upward.